Welcome to Adventures in Messaging. I'm Emma Stratton, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Sarah Lambert. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
She is the Director of Product Marketing at Oracle, where she heads up everything about their HR offering. And Sarah, interesting. I know you have a lot that you have to do, like in your role. You're in charge of product updates and all sorts of things, but I hear you're often famously pulled into discussions, messaging creation from all other products and other teams that you're not really involved with. So, why does that keep happening to you?
I've been working in the HR tech space for almost 15 years now, and I just know the buyer super well. They're a really underrepresented buying audience traditionally, and really think of them as underdogs. So I'm just really passionate about the work that they do. I mean, nobody gets into HR to make millions of dollars, right? So I think I've gotten pulled into conversations because I know how to speak to the concern of that buyer, and especially in a really traditional tech space, they don't know how to talk to people who don't care about necessarily how things work. They're only concerned about the outcome. So yeah, I think that's probably why.
I think that is amazing because I think it is all about knowing your customer and it's all about empathizing with them and having, caring about them and helping them. And so I love that you're doing that over at Oracle and that you're super passionate about it. And that's
Thanks.
great. So speaking of the customer and knowing them well, how does that play into your research mix? Say when you're creating new messaging or you're updating an existing one, what is your ideal research mix?
Well, there are four pieces I think that are really important to a research mix, and the most important one being customer feedback. I'm really fortunate that at Oracle, 80% of the updates that we make in our products come from customer feedback. So we have this really robust feedback loop from customers. We have an incredibly active, especially in our HR software division, very active user group. And so there's, constant feedback on, I like this, I don't like that. And so they're an amazing resource for us. And also, frankly, an amazing resource to test messaging.
Yeah.
In addition, I think you also really just have to keep your ears open and be aware of what's going on in the market. So third-party research, trends, looking at what analysts are talking about, that's super important. But obviously also your products team, understanding, why they're doing what they're doing, because a lot of them have this insight into what other companies are doing. So they really help to bridge the gap between competitive, if you're lucky enough to have a competitive intelligence team, versus, straight up what is, SAP or Workday or whomever else doing. So they're really helpful. And I would actually partner them with our internal SMEs. So people who are former VPs of HR or, former heads of talent acquisition, they're really great. And then lastly, but certainly not least, are our sales team. They're wonderful and they're lovely. And I know that they've got a ton of great feedback, but it tends to be anecdotal. And at the end of the day, I'm looking for hard statistics usually, or, can I go back to customers and ask for them to take a survey and get some actual data so that we can connect back to that. But yeah, I think those four together are a really good research mix.
Yeah. And so you mentioned using the feedback, those user groups for testing messaging as well. So
Yeah.
how do you go about that? Because I know a lot of people wonder, how do we validate our messaging? How do we know it's landing? Tell me a bit about how you do that there.
I think there is a subtle way to do it without it feeling like it's message testing, right? Um,
Covert messaging testing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So tell me,
So,
how do you do that?
well, what we like to do is focus groups.
Okay.
But also there's an opportunity usually sometimes to just ask like, hey, what are you guys doing around a particular topic? So let's say, where are you struggling with recruiting? And you take them out of the conversation around product and you ask them, what are you struggling with? What's the hardest thing that you need help with? And a lot of times that'll go to a key area or trend. So some will say, we're really struggling with diversity hiring. What's the most equitable way to do that? Do we do blind hiring? Do we make sure that we're funneling people in so we've got a diverse slate? And really, when you talk to them about what their business challenges are, you start to see some of the things that you're messaging around come in, and you can really start to determine, okay, what I'm about to say is going to resonate, right? So you never try to lead that conversation, marketing 101, right? Never create leading questions. But if you provide the opportunity for that open feedback, they usually tend to tell you exactly what you want to hear to determine whether or not what you're about to say with your messaging is going to work.
Yeah, that is great. I'm a huge fan of voice of customer to actually drive the messaging strategies. So often I start that way. I start with the inputs, listening, what are they saying? And that kind of helps me build the hierarchy. And I love swiping language from customers as well, because they say it so simply and
Yeah.
they say it in the way that other people, will understand. So I think that's great. Um, One question for you that I like to ask a lot of people, there's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of phrases that we see again and again in our spaces. What is the one word or phrase that you'd happily banish from marketing?
Oh gosh. I think empower. Empower
That's
is
a good one.
it, or enable. um because and I have to say, we are so lucky. We have a CMO who's been with us for just about a year now. His name's Ariel Kelman, and he actually came to us from AWS, so he really gets that product marketing in the tech space. And he has so brilliantly tasked all marketers, product marketing specifically, but all marketers, if you have to use multiple words to explain what you're talking about, then you're not doing it correctly. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And I think for a lot of tech marketers, that is a very difficult thing to do, right? Because you keep thinking, well, I have to speak to the feature and I have to speak to the value prop. And at the end of the day, yes, those things are important, but if you can simplify it and not use words like empower and enable, which don't really mean anything, like at the end of the day, truly, right? They don't mean anything. Then you can get much more quickly to the value of what you're about to say, or the value of the product, in a way that the customer is going to feel like they're not being sold to.
Right. Those are great ones. Enable features in every single software messaging framework on the planet, for sure.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is the gold standard. And empower, I share that one. It's almost condescending at this point, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not some like weak, powerless person who needs this piece of software to be able to seize the day. Right. So, Sarah, you've been in the HR tech space for a really long time, and you're far along in your career. And I'd love to know, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self and give her advice, what would that be?
Gosh, there's so much I'd want to say to her. But from a work perspective, I was thinking about this very topic a couple weeks ago, because I thought to myself, you sometimes you get to a point in your career and you think, wow, I'm actually doing what I wanted to do. So like when I was younger, I wanted to be a writer.
Mm.
And I've worked in advertising in the past, and was always sort of, the copywriters to me were kind of like the magic people, like they would come up with these beautiful taglines, and they just brilliant, brilliant copy, and I realized that I finally got to that place where I am that person, right? And it's taken me a long time and a lot of verbal beatings from whether it's sales or product or whatever over the years, like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And what I finally figured out is, and I think this is the thing that I would say, is don't take it personally. People's feedback is their opinion, and it is colored from every experience they've had. They might never have worked with a product marketer that appreciates or respects them, or takes their feedback and goes in a completely different direction. So first and foremost, don't take the feedback personally. It doesn't mean that your work is crap. It just means that it doesn't work for what you're particularly doing. And it has taken me a very long time to not create a thick skin, because I think that's not about that. It's about remembering that I'm good at what I do, and it just is another round of revision.
That's right. It's only just another round of revisions, which any writer, anyone in marketing understands that is just life. And yeah, that really resonates with me. It's not taking it personally, that it's not a failure. It's just, yes, another round of revisions. So on this topic, what would you say is the best thing you've ever learned about messaging in your career so far?
Hmm, that's a tough one. I think the best thing I've learned is that uh, the ultimate compliment and or confirmation of what you've done is feedback from customers and feedback from analysts. And so I'll give you a great example. We do biannual product updates, and we have 1,200 updates that happen every year, but no customer is like, yeah, tell me more about every single one. No. So what we try to do is we pull the ones together that are happening within a particular time frame, and figure out the way to build the story to share that in a way that's going to be compelling. And we actually didn't go public with one last April because COVID, right?
Yeah.
And everything was getting blown up, but we still did an analyst day just to sort of chat with them about what was coming out. And so nothing really technically got pushed out externally. And oddly enough, 3 or 4 months later, a tweet came out that included an image and verbiage from a deck that I had built from someone very well known in the space, whom I greatly respect, saying, "Wow, this is really great work that Oracle has quietly been building." And I thought, you know what? I killed it. He got it. He's excited. That's a win. So yeah, I was pumped about that.
That is awesome, because it's not often that you get that kind of, you never get that kind of feedback, or that that
Right.
satisfaction. You put all these things into the world, and it's just like, yeah, you don't get to see that effect, but to get, called out by someone you admire, that is super awesome. So
Yeah.
congrats on that. I'm
Thank
impressed
you.
and a little bit jealous.
Yeah. I'll send him your way.